Well, well, I'm extremely excited to share with you a new series that I'm starting. It's going to be called Your Older Brother, and it's sort of a challenge for myself and hopefully also something that you all find really interesting because I want to learn how to speak for longer periods of time on a topic that's not scripted. There's no script happening here. I haven't thought of anything except for the topic, and I want to learn how to do that regularly. So for the next 30 days, every evening or whenever I have time during the day, I'm going to try and sit down here in this chair and talk for 15 minutes on a topic, whatever happens to be something that I'm interested in for the day. And hopefully it's something you guys all find interesting as well. It's definitely the videos are probably going to be like 10 minutes long just because I'm going to be cutting out some of the downtime and the pauses while I think of something to say. So in about 15 minutes, we'll wrap this up and we'll see what kind of content comes out of it. It's going to be very interesting. I have my coffee and let's get started. Really, I came up with this idea because I spend a lot of time around a lot of content creators where I'm at. I'm from Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, and surprisingly enough, even though it's not the biggest town, it's about 260,000 people who live here. Even though it's not the biggest town, we actually have a surprisingly large number of entrepreneurs and business people. Maybe it's just because it's beautiful, maybe it's just because the more people who moved here, they brought more big business entrepreneurs who moved here, they brought their following. For instance, Dan Martel, he has a big following in Kelowna, and part of my entrepreneurship journey was started through going to some of his business classes for young men. There's other names, Cole De Silva, Matthew Orlando. There's multiple big entrepreneurs in Kelowna besides Dan Martel, but those are just a few off the top of my head. But I really got started in entrepreneurship through my parents. I think my parents were the biggest factor for me because they always wanted to teach us to be free thinkers. And I think to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a free thinker. You have to think outside the box because the box, if you think of the box as what most people do, most people have a job or they have a career, well-paying career, not so well-paying career, whatever the case may be. They have a career that they follow for their life, and they never expect to move out or beyond that. And that's the biggest thing I think with entrepreneurs is we're always looking for what we can do to grow, to increase, to become better, if that makes sense. So for me, my parents were a big part of that. My dad's an entrepreneur, has been. My mom homeschooled us, so we really learned a lot about being entrepreneurs, being free thinkers, being people who live outside the box. And that's why I'm doing this challenge. And the challenge is for 30 days because I want to set myself a period of time that's achievable, where I can get to the end and hopefully share some of my own personal thoughts on any topic. If you guys have a topic or something you'd like me to talk on, please let me know. But it's going to be a period of time where I can just share my thoughts, vent my feelings, my ideas, my feelings, if the case may be. And hopefully this also provides some content for my short form media that I produce, which would be really helpful because you're always looking for content for short form media. I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine just the other day, and he's a editor, videographer, doing very well, and he was talking about content, creating better content, and we were discussing this idea of hooks. And one of the things that I find hard to do is how to create a hook that interests people. Because for me, and I think for a lot of people online, we're very hooked by entertainment. You see a plane crash into the ground, or you see something crazy happen. You see a bunch of people ice skating on black ice or something like that, right? It's entertainment, it's interesting, it really grabs your attention right away, but it doesn't really, there's no purpose behind it. There's nothing you can gain from that besides the entertainment, which you can argue that entertainment is very helpful, but it doesn't give you a whole lot. Whereas I want to provide actual value to my audience. And right now my audience is very small. I have about 300 people plus who watch my stuff. And I'm working on that. That's mostly friends and acquaintances, which I really appreciate all of you guys watching my stuff. It's amazing. You're awesome. But I want to grow my audience to influence the world towards something better. And I think as Christians, I'm a Christian, I think as Christians, that's part of our calling from God, is to try and be a positive influence on our culture. And talking for just sharing your thoughts, I think, is a great way to do that, because we live in a society that's so scripted right now. AI, ChatGPT, I am guilty of this myself. I get a lot of my captions, I get a lot of my information from ChatGPT because it's so easy. It writes it for you and it sounds human, but it's got that uncanny valley part of it too, which it wasn't written by a human. And to other people, because I use ChatGPT, I can pick up on other people who use ChatGPT instantly. I just know they used AI for this, and it instantly puts a sour taste in my mouth, even though I use it myself all the time. And this is something, maybe you understand this, maybe you can explain this to me, but even though I use it myself all the time and I have no issues with it, and I think it's an incredibly helpful tool, when I realize that someone else has used it, it still puts a bad taste in my mouth. Why is that? Because it's not that I think AI is bad, I think AI has amazing uses. And it's not that I'm against people using AI for their content, because I use AI for my content a lot of the time. So why is it there's just not a good feeling when it comes to content that was created by AI? And I also think content that's real, that's actually what someone thinks, your own personal thoughts, I think that's valuable, because we're losing a lot of that. I scroll through Instagram for inspiration. I scroll through reels on how to create better hooks, how to create better storylines, how to be someone who catches someone's attention faster. And it's really amazing how everything is starting to look and sound the same. Everyone's doing the same thing. And actually, Cole De Silva, I was watching a video from him just the other day, and he was talking about this, how everything's starting to sound the same. And as entrepreneurs, we're trained to look outside the box, be different from everybody else. But even the entrepreneurs now are all starting to sound the same. And we're becoming the AI in a sense, which is scary. I don't think anyone truly wants to turn into such a 2D shell of a human being, that they sound like AI, they look like AI, they talk like AI, because everything's scripted, everything's perfect, but it's all just AI at the end of the day. And so I'm really trying to get away from that, which is why I want to do this. I want to talk to the camera, and this is very different for me, because at the beginning of this year, as some of you might know, I started my 135 days of just posting every day, whatever I felt like posting, and it was a lot of fun. I had a great time doing it, and it was definitely a challenge, but it got pretty easy because I could just take a video of whatever I was doing, if I was talking about a job or anything, and I could post it and it would be done in 5 minutes. And then more recently, I've been trying to create better quality content, stuff that actually matters to me. Psychology really interests me, mindset, masculinity, Christianity, how to live a biblical life as a masculine man. All of that very much interests me. And learning how to talk on camera with a script is very different from just talking. What I'm doing right now I'm finding already, is much harder than having a script, having an idea of what I'm going to say, because this is truly public speaking. You don't have anyone to back you up. You can't just make a cut and add in something. It's just raw, unedited speaking. And it's a lot easier when you have a friend and you can talk to them. Obviously, you guys are my friends, but I'm talking to a camera and trying to envision you behind the camera, which is harder. But yeah, it's going to be a fun challenge, 30 days. And 15 minutes a day, I think, I'm going to set aside the time. The videos are probably going to be 10 minutes long, like I mentioned before, just because that way I can cut out some of the pauses and downtime. And if they all end up being 15 minutes, that's great. I'm not expecting views. I'm not expecting anything from this. I'm just trying to create content that actually matters, my actual personal thoughts. And let's talk a little bit about, hold on, I'm going to take a drink. Let's get into a little bit about entrepreneurship and doing hard things, because I think this is content. Social media is a hard thing. I think owning a business, trying to start a business is a very hard thing. And I think entrepreneurs tend to give themselves really hard challenges, because I like being challenged, but also because the reward for a harder challenge is so much more. I could become a doctor. I could go to school for 8 years. I could go become a general practitioner, and I could know exactly how much money I'm going to be bringing home at the end of every day. And I'm not saying that job isn't challenging and extremely necessary, but every single day becomes the same. Whereas for me, I never know what might happen. I'm working on businesses, I'm working on content, I'm coming up with new ideas constantly, new things, new innovations, find new people to talk to. I mentioned my friend that I was talking to you about. We had an amazing conversation about videography, which was so cool. He's a videographer, he's been one for years, he creates very cool videos, advertisements for companies. It's very different from what I'm doing, but just the insight that other entrepreneurs have that we can share with each other and look into ideas together is so cool. It's so much fun. That community itself, just the community, is a great part of, great reason to be an entrepreneur. And I'm not trying to sell you on this. Don't be sold. It's a lot of work and it's way more time. And you don't necessarily make as much money right away. But long term, it's extremely rewarding. And anyway, that was a bit of a ramble and a tangent. But we'll get back to the topic at hand. And so I came up with the idea of talking on camera for 15 minutes at a time, which is actually surprisingly not that long. It's almost up already. I can't believe it. But set up this, I guess, backdrop. I got my armchair, cup of coffee, my Bible. I always need the Bible. Lit a lamp, and this is my friend. I found him in America on a trip down there. I took one look at him and I was like, I absolutely need that guy. And he has lived over my bed for the last 2 years, and now he's going to be part of my backdrop. So get used to seeing his face. Honestly, he has the drip way more than I do, which I aspire to dress like him. Anyway, we're basically done. Our time's up already, which is shocking, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.